All right, we should be good to go. We should be live. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys had an amazing weekend. Hope you guys are ready for another week as we are taking advantage of the last that's really left of December before we start heading into holidays. So, without further ado, man, let's get straight into it. Appreciate you guys for tapping in as always on a Sunday evening. I know if you guys are also tapping in from overseas, it's probably pretty late for you guys as well. So yeah, let's waste no time and get straight to the value for today. So really quickly, I just want to talk about some of the fundamentals so that we are aware. The big one for sure is going to be FOMC on Wednesday. So we got to keep an eye out on that. Monday, we don't really have anything. Tuesday, we have news at 10, which is right around when I look for my specific window for the Liberty X model that I've been showing you guys over the past month or two. Thursday, we have some news prior to market open, and Friday is just whatever. So, again, the main thing is basically Wednesday for sure with FOMC. So, last time we even maybe mentioned FOMC, there's been a lot of talk about Powell getting replaced. Now, it's been like a conversation that's like been said on and off for quite some time, and I don't know, there hasn't really been like some official guarantee on that yet from what I've seen personally. But it's been a big talking point for sure. But as you can see, like for now, there's still articles being posted about Powell and everything as we head into this F1C in a couple days. All right, so that's pretty quick review of just some of the news to expect coming up soon. Now, obviously, we can talk about where we're at in the grand scheme of price as well, and what I kind of maybe see coming for this week. But before we jump into the future, I do want to talk a little bit about the past, such as like what we did this past week. Now, this past week for the model specifically, we didn't really have like amazing setups. Depending if you like try to hold for, let's say, 2R plus, which is usually my MO, there was only really like one good trade, which was Monday, and all the other days gave us like a 1R and then a reversal, and then price just kind of like sat around. And so even though we were like overall trending higher from like a swing trading perspective, like holding from, let's say, Monday through Friday, like where we started on, let's say, Sunday to where we finished on Friday, yeah, we saw a move to the upside. But on an intraday level, like during New York session, we kind of pushed up and stabilized, pushed up, stabilized, pushed up, stabilized. Like every single day we like rallied and then came back down to like average prices. And so obviously that's not what we want if we're trying to intraday trade during New York to catch, good moves like 3Rs, 4R plus trades. So yeah, the conditions for the first week of December, I mean, first day was actually really good. It was the best day. It was Monday. And after that, again, we never really had another like 2R plus easy trade. And I'm talking about specifically like the Liberty X model that I showed you guys. So yeah, just kind of swinging through it really fast on Monday. We had again the main 2R trade, which was this one. Now, if you guys don't know the strategy, obviously that's something you'd want to brush up on if you kind of want to understand why I take the entries I take and what the idea is with why I trade the strategy. Above anything, like it's not meant to be something that catches like crazy risk to reward trades. It's something to develop a little bit more of like consistency, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, like, I've always taught you guys about Asia and breakouts and reversals and all these different things. And if you incorporate London session, there's other opportunities. So like, I don't want to box you guys into like less necessarily only trading this one model that I've been showcasing. But I just know that like the main thing anybody really struggles with in trading for the most part is consistency. And a lot of that just comes into like, you have certain strategies, but they have a lot of like discretionary things that you have to kind of like like for example, if we get a breakout of Asia high, you have to still be like, okay, well, is it gonna be a breakout or is it gonna be a fake out? You know, that's some discretion that you have to have. And so you can have crazy Asia moves, but you might be in the wrong side of the market because you don't know what your directional bias is or whatever. And so you can look back and see like Asia reversals, Asia breakouts, and see some good trades, but ultimately, if you don't have the right bias, you're probably taking the opposite side of the trade. And I know because obviously I've traded that strategy, taught it for a while. So I know the good and the bad and what people do well with and what people struggle with. And so again, Liberty X is just something that like forces us to have a certain daily bias based on the list of confirmations that we have. And then, you know, when you do that, something that's very filtered, you're not going to have necessarily crazy risk to rewards. And some weeks are going to be slower, like the one we just had. But overall, like there's clarity, right? So always keep that in mind. Like whenever you're trying to find like your way of trading or a strategy or whatever you want to call it, you're always going to balance a couple different factors that do need to be monitored, tracked, and understood for you to like see progress, which is your win rate, right? So out of like 10 trades, 20 trades, 30 trades, 50 trades, 100 trades, like how many do you win? How many do you lose? How many go break even based on the rules you have for trade management? Like win rate percentage is going to be a big part of it. Your second thing is your average risk reward. Now, obviously, this is stuff that is, I'm not gonna say easy to understand, but like it's your baseline. Like you need to fully know what win rate is, what average RR is, because if you don't even know that part, you're in dangerous territory, right? You gotta understand the game you're playing. So these are the numbers that we gotta control. Your win rate, your average risk to reward, and that could be like expected versus executed, right? Because you can have an expectancy of a risk to reward, and then you can have like, well, in reality though, even though you might have expected a 3R trade, it ended up being a 1.5 and then reversing. So like your expected risk to reward and your actually executed risk to reward are things you have to monitor. Ideally in a strategy, if you're gonna have a high win rate, you know, like winning, let's say 70-80% of your trades, you don't probably have again, this is just an average thing I'm saying right now. There's always outliers and people who are just animals in trading, and that's who you should aspire to be like. But again, just kind of catering to like everybody, the higher your win rate is, like let's say at 80%, almost always is because your average risk to reward is a lot less, like under 2R, you know, like 1.5, 1-to-1, something like that. Obviously, if you're winning like 80% of your trades and your risk to reward is like a 3-to-1 always, and you're actually executing 3-to-1s on paper with an 80% win rate, I mean, you're printing, like you're in the top 0.0001% of the trading world, just so you know. So keep those things in mind, you know, but I always try to keep us in a baseline where if we can win even 50% of the trades, so setting the bar not low, but like setting the bar at something that we can all work towards achieving. And once we have consistency, then we can really try to up it. But 50% and having even an average risk to reward of like 1.5 to 2, like that's a good spot to be in. To like at least keep your account incrementally growing and in a good spot. All right. I know everybody wants to like do mega flips and like push 20% months consistently and do all that, and you know, it's gonna be tough to do that, but at least start with this baseline and then push for ways to, you know, get there eventually. But yeah, that's some first thoughts that I wanted to kind of start out with before we jump into some of these setups. People say December is not good to trade. The last week was likely consolidation. Do you think we should start to see better entries in January? Well, I mean, the thing is, like, recency bias is always something that, you know, we're gonna experience as humans, especially if we don't have like a long time in this game. So like I've been trading for like 7 years, and I know like the first 2 years, it was more like me just like following other people, copying other people, studying. So like I don't really have 7 years of like live executing fully dependent on myself. If we're talking like that, I probably have like live executing by myself, no signals, no help, no nothing. I would say since like realistically 2021, so like 4 years, right? When it comes to that. And what's it called? That means I've seen a couple Decembers, right? Like I've seen many Decembers, and I remember the first year where I was an educator with Akashex. It was December of 2023. I remember that December of 2023. It was the month before we came out with Tap to Trade in January for 2024, and it was me, Maddie, and Brent, who he's no longer with Akashics, and I remember like us three were the only ones that were actually trading for the company, like sending alerts and stuff like that. And bro, we had literally like the craziest month ever. Like all of our alerts and everything was like so crazy that that's literally what pushed us into Tap to Trade and all that stuff. So like I remember certain Decembers that were like groundbreaking, and then other Decembers that are whatever. And so again, recency bias, you're like, oh well, this week wasn't that good. So the thing with stigmas is like you can listen to certain stigmas that people say like, oh, you shouldn't trade in December. But that's the same way that people say like you shouldn't trade Asia. Like even I tell you not to trade Asia because of my strategy. But I know people that trade Asia, that trade NASDAQ during Asia, that are making like 6-figure months as well. So in reality, like any paradigm that you put into the chart or your life, like you're gonna live by it and you're gonna see it. So in general, December compared to other months is not gonna be like a better month, but it doesn't mean that like, oh, I'm turning off the monitor for 30 days. I don't think it's that bad, if that makes sense. And the easiest way you could do that is you can literally just go back to last year and the year before. Obviously, you won't be able to see like 5-minute time frames or anything like that, but I mean, you could see like the daily chart and look back maybe like a year or two and just look at some of, how December looked like and make the determination for yourself. But people are always going to say you shouldn't trade Fridays. You shouldn't trade Mondays. You shouldn't trade Sundays. There's always going to be somebody that says you shouldn't trade something. So ultimately, if I had to compare December to a different month, I wouldn't say it's a top rank one, but it's not like, oh my God, there's no way we're touching this in December. I would have told you guys, it just happens to be that obviously when we have this week that we just had where it was like a lot of 1-to-1s or less, it's easy to be like, well, oh yeah, I heard people say that December sucks, and look, happens to be the first week of December really sucked, so I guess it does suck. And we'll see. Like we'll see how week 2 goes. But the market moved. That's the one thing we gotta do understand. Like the market didn't consolidate for a week. It actually trended upwards. Like it moved from Sunday to Friday. What? 680 points, 6,000 pips. So if we go from Sunday to Sunday, let me see. Okay, so this is Sunday, right? And then the last Sunday was right here. So this last week of November, this thing rallied about like 1,100 points, and then this week it rallied about 700. So like it had an extra 400 points. But you can pick any of these weeks and you'll see some weeks that did just as many movements, like as many points moved in a week as other weeks in November. You know what I'm saying? So again, it just comes down to like what your strategy is. Because any strategy is gonna have like good weeks, bad weeks, and at the end of the day, you gotta just pick what you want to stick to. Because what sucks is when you bounce one strategy to another strategy, and then basically you have to be very correct on the certain, like the only reason why you would have multiple strategies and trade multiple strategies is to take advantage of different market conditions. But you would have to know how to spot that you're in a changing market condition and actually like execute it properly while changing everything that you just did for the last, let's say, like couple weeks or a month. That's really hard. Like imagine you have a certain way of trading that you've done for the last like month, and you're like, oh, I think the market conditions are changing, I'm gonna do this now. And then like actually, number one, be right that the market condition did change and that you're executing a whole different approach in real time. It's tough, man. That's I don't know, that's really tough. So if you stick to one thing, you just have to like take advantage of when things are all lining up and not hesitating on trades so that you can make the most out of the good weeks. And then just like not try to revenge trade, not get frustrated, and not get impatient whenever we see conditions that are not so suitable for the strategy. That's really the biggest issue. Like, okay, let's say that we're like, hey, our rule is that we're only gonna go for 2R trades. And if it doesn't go 2R, we don't close profits. All right, well, we had a 2R trade Monday. Then we went 1R and reversed, that's break even. We had another 1R trade that reversed, that's break even. And then we had another 1R trade that went break even. And then Wednesday we had no entry. So basically you had 2R, right? And let's say that even one of these break evens, you take a L. So you have a 1R. Dude, you still made profit. You're not like balling. You didn't make a killing. But your account's not going backwards. So how is that bad? You know? The reality is a lot of people want a strategy or a way of trading that's gonna make you like 10% every month guaranteed. And then you can find one or find somebody that says that and that, you know, can show you some type of quote unquote proof that it does it or whatever. And then you go execute it and it's like, well, can you execute properly? Because just because something can give you a 10% month doesn't mean that you will actually execute that properly. Like, what if you're sick and you can't trade that day, or something came up and I don't know, or there was a day where like one of my accounts, there was CME data issues and the server was down. The other day, Amazon Web Services had a shutdown and they like, you know, momentarily paused trading a bunch of across a bunch of different futures prop firms. And like that was a day that I could have taken trades and the market gave a really good setup that day. So dude, there's so many little factors that can like cause you to miss a trade, not take a trade, you know, things like that. And so if you're like in a position where you've consistently made, even every month, like let's say you're consistently on fundage or whatever, like, oh, I make 1 to 3% every month consistently. Okay, well, number one, you're above 90 something percent of people because you're profitable, number one, and you're constantly gaining. So if you're in a place where you've already consistently been making, you know, profit every month over and over and over, then you could be like, damn, you know what? I want to take myself up to another level. Like, how can I apply some of the same principles that help me make 1 to 3% consistent every month and now try to push for like 5 or 7? I don't know, just to give you an idea, right? That makes sense. But most people are like strategy hopping or doing this or doing that a lot, or like, you know, talking about market conditions or different things. And it's like, well, number one, until you even like get to the point where you can be consistent on a small scale, like don't be so attracted to some quote unquote crazy returns strategy. Take it how you want, you know what I'm saying? But it's just common sense. Like, if we can't manage 1R trades properly, like what do you think is gonna happen if you find a strategy that does 5Rs and then you're up like 1.5 or 2 and then you close it early and then the trade runs for 5R? Like, if you can't master managing like smaller RR trades and stuff like that, it's gonna be really hard and easier said than done to just think you're gonna like, you know, find a way to trade or whatever that's gonna be printing like 5Rs, 10Rs all the time. And again, there are systems that are out there that people show that it happens, but usually the people executing it properly have a lot of experience and know that thing like the back of their hand, and Very few people. Very few people. Sorry, I've had like this weird cough for like the last couple of days. But yeah, again, this week was pretty trash to be honest. But at the end of the day, if you can keep your accounts afloat when things are not hot in the market, that's the biggest thing. What really messes people up is that they have a strategy, no matter what it is. It doesn't have to be mine, but you have like a good day, and then the next day it goes break even, and then the next day there's a no trade day, and then Thursday comes around and maybe you take a L, and you're like, nah, I had a good trade to start the week, then we had a break even, then we had a no trade day, now I lost. Like, nah, I gotta take advantage of Thursday because Friday might be slow, and then you take like 3 more trades and lose like 3 times on Thursday, and so you just erased this trade. You took a break even here, you didn't trade here, now you're down 3R, and then Friday, you're like, oh, can I try to make it up? And then it goes break even. And then you're down minus 3% for the week, and you're like, how the hell did I get here? And it happens so fast. Like, you can have a really good Monday, and then like break even days, and then on Thursday you get impatient because you want to make money that week, and you just overdo it on this day. And then Friday you try to follow up with it, and next thing you know, you're down 3R for the week, and you're like, bro, I started off so good. Like, what happened? And it's that usually comes from impatience, or like you started off the week on a fresh mindset coming off of a weekend, a Sunday. You're like, okay, I've been studying, I've been back testing, I've had some days away from the charts, let me lock in. But once the grind of the week goes in, and especially if you're in a community and you see like somebody else make a withdrawal, or you see somebody else pass a challenge, or you see somebody else do something, and you're here like sidelined or not doing anything or whatever, that stuff can get to you, and it will, if number one, you don't see it coming, and number two, you don't have a very strong belief in yourself and in the system that you're trading. Until you have a really strong belief in yourself and in your system, you won't stick to it, or you'll mismanage it. And then you like almost did everything right, but you didn't do everything right. And so you ended the week red when you could have probably ended the week with like a little profit or like break even. But you ended up like with a pretty strong red day, and that just threw off your whole week. Like, you can literally slip 1 out of the 5 days of the week and just set yourself back. So it's very important to daily reset, daily, like, just surrender to your rules and surrender to your risk management, because you can start the week hot and end the week down, and look back on a Friday night and be like, what the hell did I do? And I've gone through it many times. I know you guys probably too. So that's how I know. And the biggest thing is, it's not that like that happening to you is not the end of the world. What sucks is if you stay in a loop. If you stay in that loop, that's what really sucks, because that loop doesn't just go away. Like, whatever loop you're in won't go away. It's like if you have some, I know it sounds messed up, but it's like you have some sickness or something, and you just think it's gonna go away by itself, and it's like, it won't go away. Like, these issues that we might have, like, if we don't confront them and really like plan and actively take action to change something, you will just be in a repeating loop, and that's like the worst place. Like, losing as a trader is not bad. What sucks is if you feel like you're not making that much progress, or if you feel like you make the same mistakes over and over and over, and staying stuck in that loop. That's really the place that we have to try to like fight against. You know what I mean? But these are very like psychological things that, like on a live session or, whatever, we don't really get to talk about or like acknowledge, because we're just so caught up in like, trying to find the setup and executing the strategy when it's time, But reflection and preparation are honestly where the real breakthrough comes from, because then when it's time to execute these conversations you had with yourself when the market wasn't up and ready for action, is like in your subconscious, like telling you like, hey, remember what we talked about on Sunday night? Remember what we promised ourselves Friday night? It's time now to keep your promise. It's time now to move stops to break even after a certain point. It's time to close this trade when we said we were going to close it. Like all the stuff we planned for and said we were going to do, like now is the follow through time, the execution time. And that's the hardest part. So if you're in a place where like you don't have a plan, you don't have structure, you don't have rules, you're kind of hopeless until you do that, right? But many of you here kind of already have some rules, have some structure, do know a little bit of what's up, because you've been getting educated, you've been watching myself and other people give you advice and whatever. And it's about how well you implement it and like how well you study yourself and your patterns, your specific patterns that are happening to you. So that's enough yapping, but very, very important yapping for myself and for you guys, to be quite honest, to make sure that we are with the right attitude, mentality, and just like not trying to sugarcoat the reality of what we need to do to win. You know what I mean? So, real quick, as far as where we're at for NAS, we came off of a bullish week, and we also came off of a bullish daily on Friday. There's a couple things that stand out to me. Obviously, like the big narrative that happened over the past, like, when was this? Thursday the 20th? About the last 2 weeks was we had this huge liquidity pool here. Something that I talked about when we were like, you know, downtrending like over here was like, hey, if we're going to continue going lower, like this is the clearest drawn liquidity that we could see, because there's just a lot of very significant lows on a daily time frame. Like that's a lot. Like this isn't a 5-minute chart. This is a daily chart. So the minute we come and grab those lows, like we're going to get a big reaction, which we ended up doing. And so now we're kind of like at the end of that move, you know, like all this manipulation that we saw here, you know, we're kind of coming to not an end necessarily, but like we're kind of like all the people that started this entire push, like this is more or less now the time where everybody that got in here is trying to make their money. That makes sense. Like everybody that entered trades here is taking profit. Okay, so a couple of things that stand out to me. There's a daily flat top candle here, which is like an inefficiency. Excuse me. So I do expect price to gravitate towards this flat top candle here that kind of caused that huge drop off on November 3rd. So that would be like my bullish target. So do I think we're ready to drop off yet? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe if and when we get up to this point that we could get a really strong reaction, something like that. But I would think we'd still crawl our way up at least a little bit more personally, because I'm just trying to look at, you know, where are their liquidity points or fair value gaps or something that stands out that price is gonna want to get to. Excuse me. So I just think this flat top daily candle is about the closest thing that stands out to me without me trying to like overthink it or try to like see something that I don't really necessarily actually see there. Because the last thing I was really looking at was these highs. So you had like this high, this high, this high, and this high when we were like over here. And so, you know, once we ran all these highs here, we started seeing that rejection towards the end of the day. We kind of sat around there. So like that objective of taking liquidity from, you know, all these like sellers right here, like they're already out of the equation now with this little wick. So yeah, there's some you know, that candle I mentioned. There's like these little fair value gaps in here that you guys can see. I think the one that I have drawn here is on the 6-hour time frame, which is a weird time frame, but it's the only time frame that I saw like a clear one. And you can see we did tap into it and give a pretty strong reaction away. You know, like that wick right there, that's not an accident, you know? Like the fact that we touch right there and then start wicking away is why I teach fair value gaps and why there's something like they are a thing to pay attention to, trust, respect as a actual like market moving element, right? So yeah, I mean, this manipulation wick that we saw here is gonna be interesting to see how we react off of that once we touch it. But you know, off of that manipulation, we never really like broke structure. You know, price, all it really did was like wick here and then kind of maintain until the market closed. So again, I just feel like overall, you know, the market structure has been bullish and it'll stay bullish until we hit something significant. But you know, London session, Asian session, all that stuff leading up into tomorrow, a lot can change, a lot can happen. But there is no news tomorrow. Tuesday we have some stuff at 10 a.m. So I would think FOMC would be the big catalyst to where they're gonna get close to all-time highs and then get another, like, I don't know, maybe strong reaction, and then I get a little bit drop off here. Or if we end up breaking all-time highs, like it's very possible that, you know, price liquidity grabs down here, and then all these highs here from everybody selling down to that liquidity level, you know, ends up getting ran all the way to all-time highs. You know, that is another big possibility. So it's gonna be interesting whether they're gonna react off here and dip a little bit, or we're just gonna end up pushing all-time highs for sure. So that is gonna be the biggest thing to watch. So I'll put this as a all-time high point right here. So yeah, that kind of sums it up more or less where we're at right now. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys have some specific questions that you guys want me to cover while we are on here, because for the most part the analysis is done. We covered a little bit of like the past week's setups, which I'm gonna delete now here. And yeah, I think we have a decent plan slash idea for where we want to see the market continue to reach for. Now it's just really about seeing how that all plays out overnight or on these other non-trading sessions, to see how our window behaves. And hopefully we can get at least, like for me, if we can get like two 2R days and then just have like a loss and some break evens, like for me, that's going to be a really good week. Like this is really the framework and why we need to exercise some patience. Like if we're going to execute this model, if we can have two 2R days and let's say 2 break evens and 1 loss, like just as an example, this will be a 3R week, right? To give you an idea. And if you do that times 12, or I'm sorry, times 4 weeks, that's, you know, a 12R month. Now that could be spread differently. You could have like a 4R day in one day that like automatically increases this. You might have more losses obviously on some weeks. But if on average we can try to get something like this, again, this is not even including those days where we might get a 4R trade or more. This is assuming that we don't even finesse some 1Rs off of these break even days. Like it could go different ways, but it's just to show you, like, if you just 2 out of 5 days of the week you get a 2R trade and then just mitigate the losses to be small, like you can end up with a 12R month. And even at a 0.5% risk, that's still 6% a month. At 1% it's 12%. I mean, even at 0.25%, that's 3% a month. And if you have that spread out across multiple firms, or even if you have like a 200K account, like 3% is $6,000. You know what I'm saying? So like we all have different goals with income, and we all have different spots that we're in with where we're at with allocation, like how many prop firms we trade, how much, you know, accounts we have, whatever, all that stuff. But again, it's just important to keep in mind that you don't need to conquer your goals in one specific trading day or even one specific week. Like realistically, like the longer you look at something further in trading, the more it makes sense. Like if you look at one trade, it may not make sense, the strategy. If you look at it over the course of a week, it makes more sense. If you look at it over the course of a month, it makes more sense. And so the thing is, obviously, we're like very like short-term minded as people in general, especially nowadays with like how fast we can get food, information. Like we move very fast, right? So um like patience and seeing like long-term delayed gratification is just getting tougher and tougher if we're not mindful. But you look at this, and this is just something to fall back to when you feel impatient or you feel like oh, I don't know if this week is good. Like, dude, just keep in mind, if we can try to get something like this on average on a week, like we're doing good. And if we can exceed that, perfect. If we have something worse than that, whatever. Like if you're making anything at the end of the month, even if it's plus 2R every month, if you do that consistently, like you're gonna get to a good place and you can work on improving that number. But the biggest thing is like don't think that like 3R a month consistently is a small thing if we haven't even gotten there. That's all I'm gonna say. If you've gotten there many times, then of course you're gonna be like, bro, that's light work. Like, let's go harder. Like, we're gonna make big money. All right, cool. You're gonna have that energy if you've done that consistently. But if we're not there to we've been like consistently doing that at minimum, set a baseline, work your way there, and then we can talk about going crazier. So yeah, kind of it. Let's see. Gold trend. I mean, I don't trade gold. I haven't traded gold in forever. Like literally, like I don't even remember the last time. It's not part of my repertoire. I just basically trade NQ. The only thing I ever look at is like Nvidia and Apple for like dividends and earnings and stuff because it's part of Nasdaq. Um, and then cryptos. You know, I do believe that everybody should have a portfolio. I've kind of talked about it before, but for me, I mean, Bitcoin, not necessarily do I have an exact number that I'm waiting for, I guess you could say, but XRP to $1, 100%. I've said that many times. Ethereum, I feel like Ethereum could break this low and get under 1,000 pretty easily, but I'm not really focused too much on Ethereum. The biggest thing for me is XRP at under $1, and then Solana pushing under like, I mean, definitely under $90, but I think we can really get to like a under $50 Solana. You know, even pushing like the 30s, 20s potentially, but yeah, like these high time frame fair value gaps on crypto they've always worked out. Like I've never seen a high time frame fair value gap on meaningful cryptos really ever fail me. I mean, you can just go back and look at any major crypto, whether it's XRP, Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, especially Bitcoin. I mean, I can go back on Bitcoin charts as many times as you want. You can see, you know, fair value gap from 10K to 4K. That was during COVID. I remember it very vividly. The big, you know, bearish trend that we had in like 2021 heading into 2022, and we dropped from like 70K to 15, and you will see like monthly fair value gaps that Bitcoin has always had to kind of come back into whenever we had these crazy rallies. So that's why I say like XRP to $1, Solana to under 50. Like those are just things that have high confidence in it getting there. So that's really the only other things I've ever like analyzed, to be honest. So yeah. I'll check the chat one more time and see if you guys got some last minute questions, and then I'm gonna go eat some dinner. All right, it doesn't look like it, so should be good. But yeah, guys, let's have a great week. I do appreciate y'all for being here. Hope that you guys have liked the content that I've been putting on YouTube as far as like recaps. I haven't done a recap in like a week now. But I did like daily recaps at least for a full week to show you guys like some of how the strategy works and whatnot. To be quite honest, I do look at like the engagement of the videos and whatnot. And I don't know, I feel like maybe recaps once in a while is something I should do, but doing them daily, I just don't know if it's something you guys are actually like interested in to see every day. I know some of you guys probably will, but at least once in a while doing that is good. And then we did an alpha futures review. I'll probably do some other reviews in the future of different futures prop firms. Obviously, TradeX is a great partner for AkashX, and definitely still promote them. There's actually like a lot of positive conversation lately about like processing times and like, you know, just like bettering the prop firm side for TradeX. But at the end of the day, like, it's not my company. I don't work for them. I just hear conversations. I talk to people, and I think there's gonna be some things that can improve TradeX very soon. But you know, that's the CFD space. Some people are like, well, they want to explore futures. They want to definitely, you know, try their hand at that and just have different, like diversify how many funded accounts they have and whatnot. So I do like Alpha, I like Top Step, I like a lot of these different prop firms. So you guys can check out the referral link in the description if you guys want to check out Alpha or any of these you know, different options. But other than that, yeah, let's crush it this week. If you guys are a part of AkashX, I will see you guys tomorrow in Spanish at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in English at 10 a.m. Eastern. And yeah, on the sessions, we definitely try to find trade setups with the strategy as much as possible if we can. And yeah, make the most out of it. So appreciate you guys. Let's crush it this week as we kind of don't have much time before the holidays, where I definitely think it will slow down at that point. All right. So let's try to do what we can before like the 24th, really. All right. Much love, guys. Appreciate you so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your night, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right. Much love. Let's get it.